My wife brought up the idea of an open marriage, but what she didn't expect was the harsh dose of reality I'd eventually give her, the kind that brought our whole relationship crashing down. Lauren, my wife, stunning, the kind of beautiful that turns heads, sat me down one evening and told me, clear as day, that she wanted to start seeing other people. There was no confusion in her words. She was direct, and I got the message loud and clear. I had gone all out that night, trying to set the mood for a special evening. We had a reservation at one of our go-to upscale spots, the kind with crisp white tablecloths and a wine list that could impress a sommelier. I wanted everything to be just right. Even picked up a diamond necklace she'd been subtly hinting at cost me nearly $1,000. Didn't realize I'd be wanting that money back real soon. During dinner, I could sense something was off. The usual ease between us had been replaced with this weird undercurrent of tension. She wasn't herself, kept scanning the room like she was expecting someone else to show up. Normally, when she looked at me, her eyes locked on with warmth and focus. But not that night. Her gaze drifted, unfocused, and detached. We just wrapped up our main course, poured another round of wine, when she finally said what had clearly been weighing on her. There's something I've been holding onto for a while now, she began, her voice serious, almost hesitant. And I think it's time we talk about it. I set my wine glass down slowly, bracing myself. The tone in her voice was familiar, the same one she used whenever she had something big to unload. My mind started racing. Was this it? Was she about to say she was ready to have a baby? We'd had that talk before, both agreeing to wait until we were more financially secure, more established in our careers. And now that we'd hit those milestones, I'd started looking forward to becoming a dad. But the way she avoided my eyes told me this wasn't about starting a family. When couples talk about having kids, it's usually a happy conversation, lots of smiling, affectionate glances. But not this. Something wasn't right. Ethan, we need to talk, she said again, her eyes serious and her expression tight. I've been thinking a lot, and this really matters to me. Her voice had a slight tremble, like even she was afraid of what was coming next. I need to figure out who I am, outside of our relationship, she said. I honestly believe that doing this will make me a better partner for you in the long run. I just sat there, stunned, trying to process what she was actually saying. Wait, what are you telling me right now? I asked, trying not to sound panicked. I leaned forward, hoping to meet her eyes, but she wouldn't look at me. I want to see other people, Ethan, she finally said. I think if we're both open about it, we can avoid resentment or hurt later on. Her words hit me like a freight train. My heart started racing, and I could feel the heat rising in my face. What do you mean, other people? I asked, my voice getting sharper, more desperate. Are you saying you want to date other men? She hesitated, biting her lip, then nodded slightly. Yeah, that might be part of it, she said quietly. The room felt like it was spinning. So you want to sleep with other men and just expect me to be cool with it? I asked, unable to stop the frustration from boiling over. How the hell did you think this would be okay, Lauren? I pulled my hand away as she reached across the table, trying to hold mine. I still love you, Ethan. That hasn't changed, she said. But this is something I need to do for me. Her words felt like a knife. No matter how calmly she said it, I couldn't wrap my head around what she was asking. Everything around us, the restaurant noise, the clinking of glasses, the soft music, just faded into the background. I sat there realizing that this conversation might change everything. What the hell are you even talking about? I asked, not hiding the disbelief in my voice. You want to cheat on me and you want me to just smile and say it's fine? Like it's nothing. My voice got louder and I could feel people nearby turning to look. Keep your voice down, Lauren whispered sharply. We don't need an audience. That's when it hit me, she picked this place on purpose. A public setting. Somewhere she knew I wouldn't blow up or walk out in a rage. She played it smart. And I walked right into it. My stomach churned, I felt physically sick, like I might lose everything we'd just eaten. I could barely get the words out. Why Lauren? Why other men? I pushed, needing her to explain. What does finding yourself even mean? Are you seriously saying you want to sleep with strangers and then come home to me like it's normal? Are you leaving me? She looked right at me, her eyes soft, but firm. No, Ethan, I'm not leaving. I still see a life with you. I still want us to grow old together and have a family. But there are things I need to figure out. Things I can't ignore anymore. I'm just asking for a few months. That's all. Just let me explore this. After that, I'll be fully yours again. I promise. Her words were meant to comfort me. But instead, they just hung there, heavy and uncertain, like a fog I couldn't see through. Could I really go along with this? Could our marriage survive something like that? The questions twisted in my gut as I tried to understand what she was asking of me. Felt like a nightmare. On our 5th wedding anniversary, Over a candlelit dinner, my wife blindsided me with the news that she wanted to sleep with other men. And she wanted me to be okay with it. She actually believed things could just go back to normal afterward. Claimed it would somehow make her a better wife. I was speechless. My mind was a blank slate. I couldn't breathe right. I felt like I was stuck in a dream I desperately wanted to wake up from. Without saying a word, I stood up. I folded my napkin, set it neatly on the table, and tossed back the rest of my wine in one gulp. I put the glass down, turned, and walked out. "Ethan, where are you going?" she called after me. I didn't look back. "I don't know," I said, "but you might want to grab a cab home." I walked out of the restaurant, still in a daze, found my car, and just started driving. I didn't have a place in mind, I just knew I couldn't be there anymore. I had to get away. My head was throbbing, like a headache that started in the back of my skull and spread across every inch of my brain, making it damn near impossible to think clearly. I kept driving without direction, letting the hum of the engine and the flicker of streetlights blur together as the miles rolled by. Time didn't matter. Nothing did in that moment. When I opened my eyes the next morning, I was still in my car. My neck ached, and my head was pounding worse than the night before. I stepped out, stretched a little, and looked around, half hoping that what happened had just been a nightmare. But reality settled back in fast. First things first, I badly needed to pee, and I was dying for a strong cup of coffee. Found a nearby bush to take care of nature's call. Yeah, not proud of it. Then got back in the car and started looking for somewhere to get breakfast. I ended up at this little diner off the highway. Ordered coffee, black and endless, and a big plate of eggs and bacon. I sat there, trying to collect myself, to sort through the chaos in my head. Letting Lauren sleep around with other guys? That was never going to be okay. If she followed through with this plan, it would mean the end of us. No doubt about it. Despite all the pretty words she said last night, I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't the same woman I married. Maybe she was going through something, some sort of emotional crisis, but whatever it was, it didn't feel grounded in reality. I'm no shrink, just a regular guy trying to keep his life from falling apart. I pulled out my phone. It had been off all night, and turned it back on. Right away, a flood of messages came in. Missed calls. Texts from Lauren asking if I was okay, where I was, if I was safe. I didn't feel ready to respond. Not yet. I needed more time. I needed a plan. After several cups of coffee and a meal that at least settled my stomach, I sketched out a rough idea of what I had to do next. It was time to go home and face this head-on. No more avoiding it. When I pulled into our driveway, Lauren came rushing out the front door. Her face was tight with worry. "Ethan, where have you been?" I was terrified. "Thought maybe you'd been in an accident," she said, reaching out like she wanted to hug me or kiss me. I took a step back. "Lauren," I said, keeping my tone even, "I need to take a shower. After that, we're gonna sit down and really talk about this exploring yourself idea you brought up." Without waiting for her to respond, I headed straight to the bedroom and started peeling off the suit I'd been wearing all night. I let the hot water wash over me, trying to rehearse what I was going to say. My thoughts were a mess, questions swirling in every direction. Did I still have a wife? Or was this her way of easing out of our marriage? Was she testing me somehow, trying to see how far I'd go to keep her? I couldn't make sense of it. And trying to figure out what she was thinking was enough to drive a man insane. I loved her. I married her, didn't I? We had a beautiful wedding and spent our honeymoon exploring Europe. I never once imagined being with anyone else. I was all in. But now it felt like she'd taken a step out of the life we built together. Thank God we didn't have any kids. That made things a little less complicated. But how this would all play out, that depended entirely on what came next. After I got cleaned up and threw on fresh clothes, I went to the kitchen and poured myself another coffee. Grabbed a notepad and pen from the counter. Lauren was already sitting at the island, watching me as I walked in. Her eyes followed every move I made. I sat across from her, trying to look composed even though I felt like I was barely holding it together. "All right, Lauren," I began, "can you explain again why you suddenly want to start seeing other people? I need to hear it straight." She met my gaze and said, "Ethan, I'm not feeling fulfilled. I need to feel seen again as a woman." Right now, I just don't feel like my needs are being met. You're saying you're unsure about what you need and you want to figure that out on your own? I asked, trying to keep my voice level. So does that mean you want to step away from our relationship while you do that? No, she said quickly, I'm not leaving. I still want to live here with you. But I need space to create my own schedule, do things in my own time. And when are you planning to start this self-discovery journey? I asked. Honestly? I guess whenever. I don't really have a set time, she said, her voice soft, a little hesitant. Do you seriously expect me to agree to this? I asked, the disbelief creeping into my tone. Lauren, when we got married, we promised to love and stay loyal to each other for life. And now you want to go look for new lovers? What am I supposed to think here? Feels like you're already halfway out the door. It's not like that, she said, clearly frustrated. I've been missing something in our relationship for a while now. The passion's faded. All we talk about is work, bills, responsibilities. I don't feel cherished anymore, not like in the beginning. Not appreciated? I repeated, feeling my temper start to boil. Everything I've done has been for you. I've worked my ass off to give us a life, this home, the future we talked about. We're almost done paying off the house, Lauren. Then I got to the real question, the one burning a hole in my chest. Are you planning to sleep with other men? I asked, forcing my voice to stay calm, though it trembled with emotion. She looked away, then said, I can't say for sure what'll happen. If I meet the right person and it feels right, I might. I stared at her, stunned. So you're seriously considering sleeping with other men and you're expecting me to be okay with that? It's not cheating, Ethan, she replied, like that explanation made it all better. It's not infidelity if you know about it. My blood was boiling. I could feel the pressure behind my eyes, like my head might explode. I took a long sip of coffee, wishing it was something stronger, whiskey maybe, but I needed to keep my wits about me. Losing it now wouldn't help anything. Let me get this straight, Lauren, I said, trying to piece her words together. You want to go out, meet other men, possibly sleep with them, and still live here with me like nothing's changed? She hesitated. It's not that black and white, Ethan. I'm still figuring it out, she said, her voice uncertain. Sounds pretty clear to me, I shot back. What about us? Are we supposed to hit pause on our marriage while you figure this out? Are we still physical? Are you expecting me to just go along with all of this like it's no big deal? Of course, Ethan. You and I, we're family. I love you deeply, she said, giving me that pleading look like she wanted me to understand. This is just something I need to do for me. I leaned back, trying to process it all. And how often do you plan to explore? Every weekend? A couple times a week? Every night? I paused, bitterness creeping into my tone. Just how far are you planning to go with this? I don't know yet, she snapped, clearly getting frustrated. Why are you so hung up on the details? Because I need to know what my life's supposed to look like while you're out dating and sleeping with your new boyfriend. Or boyfriends, I said, the sarcasm slipping through. I mean, I don't have a girlfriend, Lauren. Not yet anyway. That last part came out sharper than I meant it to. I breathed in deep, trying to control the rising anger. Lauren, I need you to be honest with me before we go any further. Have you already made up your mind? Have you even thought about what this is going to do to our marriage? She gave a small nod but didn't really answer the question. That silence told me all I needed to know. She hadn't truly considered how this would affect me. It was like I was just an afterthought in her grand journey of self-discovery. Then she said the one thing that told me exactly where we stood. If you love me, Ethan, you'll let me do this. I locked eyes with her. No, Lauren. If you love me, you wouldn't even think about doing this. This was the moment I drew my line in the sand. Here's how it's going to go. These are my conditions, non-negotiable. If you want to date other men, you're not doing it while living under this roof. You'll need to move out. I'm not going to share a home with you while you're off with other guys. And bringing them here? Not happening. Ever. You'll have to stay somewhere else. Her face went pale. But where am I supposed to live? She asked, caught off guard. Maybe ask Maya. You two are close, right? You've stayed at her place before. She's single, she's been through divorce, seems like she'd understand. Or rent a short-term apartment. You'll be covering your own rent, utilities, and car payments. That's on you. Lauren had a good job as a third-grade teacher. She made solid money. I worked as a forensic accountant for a large firm. My income was good too, especially with bonuses. We weren't hurting financially. But the way she'd been talking, it was clear she thought something was missing from our relationship. Apparently, I wasn't giving her what she needed. I saw a flicker of something in her eyes. Was it surprise? Relief? Maybe she thought I was giving in. That I was willing to let her go explore like she'd somehow won. I kept going. So if you're set on this open marriage idea, I said slowly, I guess I'll just have to be patient while you run off and have your affairs. But tell me this, are you planning to come back to me afterward, Lauren? She nodded with a quick, eager smile. Of course I am. I love you. You're my husband. I still want to have a family with you. I stared at her. And what exactly am I supposed to do while you're out sleeping with other men? Just sit around, stay faithful, wait my turn? Welcome you back with open arms like none of it happened. She softened. I want you and only you, Ethan. That won't change even if I'm doing other things for a while. When I come back, I want you to still be my husband, the father of our future children. It was honestly one of the strangest ways I'd ever heard someone try to say, I love you. She was treating it like some kind of temporary adventure, as if she could just go out, get it out of her system, and come back like nothing ever happened. She already understood that I wasn't going to allow her to bring any of these men into our home, and that seemed like a win for her. No judgment, no interference. She'd get her freedom, and I'd just be here, waiting. Well, I said, standing up, you need to figure out where you're staying and let me know by the end of the week. In the meantime, we've got some things to sort out. I looked her dead in the eye. I want you to move your things into the guest room. I can't sleep beside you right now. I just can't. What you're planning, it hurts. And whether you say it or not, it feels like you're already leaving me. She didn't say a word. Just sat there, quiet, maybe realizing for the first time that I wasn't going to just roll over and accept all this without a fight. Maybe she was surprised I told her to move out of our bed. But seriously, what did she expect? That I'd be some passive doormat nodding along while she paraded around with new lovers, then came home to play house? No way. Not me. I had a pretty strong hunch where some of these ideas were coming from. Her friend Maya had been in her ear, no doubt. Maya was a fourth-grade teacher at the same school, 35, still attractive and not exactly known for her self-restraint. 2 years back, she got caught cheating on her husband with several guys. He kicked her out and she never looked back. Now she was divorced, single, and based on what I'd seen, eager to drag others into her mess. I was convinced she was feeding Lauren all this find yourself nonsense. But here's the thing, if Lauren wandered too far down that road, there wouldn't be a family with me waiting at the end of it. There'd only be one thing left, divorce. I stood up from the table and turned to walk away. Behind me, I heard Lauren call my name. Is that it, Ethan? You really want me to move out? She asked, her voice shaky. For now, yeah, I said flatly. Don't get me wrong, Lauren, I don't want you to go through with any of this. But let's not pretend this is normal. When we got married, we agreed on monogamy. That was the deal. And now you're talking about breaking that commitment. I stood there, looking her straight in the eye. So tell me, what exactly do you expect from me? Do you think I'm just going to sit back and smile while you go out and get intimate with other guys? If this is going to be an open marriage, then I guess that door swings both ways. Lauren didn't have a response. She just stared at me, speechless. I didn't stick around to let things spiral into a shouting match. I grabbed my car keys and walked out. Ethan, where are you going? She called after me. I don't know yet, I said without turning around. But don't forget, you need to start packing your things for the guest room, and you'd better start looking for a place to stay. And just to be crystal clear, there's no seeing other men until you've officially moved out. I shut the door behind me, maybe a little harder than necessary. I'll admit, for a moment, I considered heading straight to Maya's place to confront her face to face. But I stopped myself. As pissed off as I was, I knew it wouldn't fix anything. This wasn't Maya's mess to clean up, it was Lauren's. She created this situation and she could live with the fallout. Still, I had no doubt Maya would welcome her with open arms. And part of me wanted to knock on her door anyway, just to tell her exactly what I thought of her. But I held back. Monday morning, I made sure I was out the door before Lauren even woke up. I had work to do, serious work. Because now that she'd made her intentions clear, I had to make moves of my own. The thought of her going through with this, of sleeping with other men while I sat at home like a fool, tore me apart. What if she came back with an STD? What if she got pregnant? No. Hell no. I wasn't going to let it get to that point. First step, call my lawyer. He was a longtime friend who usually helped me with stuff like wills and property deals, not divorces, but he pointed me toward a reputable divorce attorney in his firm. I had a meeting set up that same afternoon. It wasn't an easy conversation. But the lawyer, tough, experienced, and sharp as a tack, walked me through my options. She knew the law inside and out, and for the first time all week, I felt like I had some kind of grip on the situation. I told her I didn't want this to turn into a bitter fight. I wasn't looking to punish Lauren, I just wanted a fair split. We'd built our life together from nothing, and I wasn't going to get petty about who got what. A 50-50 division felt reasonable. Truth was, the stuff didn't matter. Not enough to stay married to someone who wanted to sleep around while still calling me her husband. So we agreed to draw up the paperwork. Nothing would be filed yet, not until I had proof she was actually cheating. But the wheels were in motion. That week dragged by like molasses. I spent as little time at home as possible, mostly killing hours at the gym or going for long runs to clear my head. Anything to burn off the frustration. Lauren, meanwhile, was spending more and more time with Maya. No surprise there. By Thursday, she told me she'd be staying at Maya's for a couple of weeks while she searched for her own place. Convenient for her. No awkward run-ins with me and full freedom to entertain her boyfriends. Honestly, the whole setup made my skin crawl. Maya probably had a guy of her own hanging around, so it sounded like a full-on circus over there. Saturday came. Exactly 1 week after our 5th anniversary dinner, the one where she'd blindsided me, Lauren packed up her car with her clothes and a few boxes. She was ready to leave, but just before she pulled away she paused. "Ethan, I don't want to go," she said softly. "Are you sure there's no way we can work through this? I love you. I want to fix our marriage." I took a breath, trying to stay calm. "Lauren, if you really loved me, if you truly wanted to fix what's broken, you wouldn't be going through with this." "I do want to stay," she said, almost pleading. "I want that too," I told her honestly. "But not like this. I can't live with you being intimate with other men and still calling yourself my wife. I love you, but I have limits. If you're not willing to go to counseling and try to fix things the right way, then I don't know what else there is to say." She didn't answer, just nodded slowly and turned back to her car. While she loaded the last of her things, I headed out to the hardware store, picked up new locks and a keypad for the garage door. When I got back, I replaced every lock in the house. It felt cold, harsh even, but necessary. That night and all through Sunday, I stayed home. Alone. Just staring at the walls, wondering if she'd suddenly show up at the door and say she'd changed her mind. Part of me still hoped she would. But the week that followed was brutal. I buried myself in workouts. Ran every day. I needed something, anything, to burn off the pain that kept gnawing at me. Some nights, the grief hit so hard I had to stop myself from calling her, from begging her to come back. I kept asking myself, what the hell happened? Was I really so lacking that my wife would rather sleep around than work on our marriage? Apparently, the answer was yes. I found myself scouring the internet late at night, searching for answers, reading about the psychology of cheating, of infidelity. Why spouses betray each other. What it says about them. What it says about you. I was desperate to understand how everything had gone so wrong. I was stunned when I learned that around 40% of married people end up cheating on their spouse. But what really blew my mind was finding out that nearly 90% of them actually stay married. A lot of the time, the other spouse just kind of accepts it, especially when kids are involved. It's easier to keep the family together and pretend everything's fine. You'd be surprised how many women who cheat say they still love their husbands and families. They're just chasing something exciting they feel is missing at home. Plenty of women who have affairs talk about how exhausting home life can be. Keeping a household running, managing the kids' schedules, and handling all the day-to-day stuff wears them down. So when it comes to sex with their husbands, it can feel routine and dull. They crave the thrill of being with someone new, someone who's completely focused on them, not talking about soccer practice or groceries the minute the fun is over. Maybe the secret to a lasting marriage is acting like you're having an affair with your own wife and skipping the divorce part. Just enjoy the physical connection without all the baggage. At one point, I even thought about showing up at the club Lauren and Maya went to just to see if I could win her over again. People cheat for all kinds of reasons. Sometimes it's because the passion is gone or there's no connection left. Other times it's out of revenge for being cheated on themselves. Some women say they step out to try and save their marriages, though honestly, I have a hard time believing that. But apparently that's what the experts studying infidelity are finding. Marriage is complicated and relationships take work. Open marriages, where both people agree to see others, rarely last. Sooner or later, someone catches feelings, hearts get broken, and most couples don't make it. Polyamory isn't any easier, especially when there are kids in the picture. And then there's the constant worry about STDs getting brought into the mix. Personally, I think sticking with one person, true monogamy, is the healthiest way to go. If both partners aren't on the same page about that, maybe it's time to rethink the relationship altogether. Or go find someone who wants the same kind of commitment. I started wondering, had I failed Lauren somehow? Did I get so caught up in building a future that I stopped giving her the attention she needed? Was I to blame? Honestly, I'm not sure. But I do know this, it tore me up inside to watch her walk away from our home just to sleep with other guys. She was looking for something she thought I wasn't giving her, but I couldn't see how what she was doing was going to fix anything between us. The week dragged by again, slow and heavy. I didn't call her. Lauren only texted once to ask if I could forward her mail to her new address. That text told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't interested in fixing anything between us. It was all cold, emotionless. Just logistics. She was out there actively chasing some new guy, or maybe even two, to have her fun. I'll admit I thought about following her. I imagined trailing her from Maya's apartment just to see who she was meeting. I drove by the place a few times, trying to talk myself out of it. In the end, I never stopped. I knew I couldn't do that to myself. She had to make her own choice, and if I got in the way, she'd never really be mine again. Day by day, it became more obvious she wasn't coming back. And the longer this went on, the less sure I was that I even wanted her back. A month went by with almost zero contact between us. Then out of nowhere, Lauren showed up at the house. She didn't call or text, just rang the bell when her old key didn't work. I opened the door and kept my face calm, trying not to show anything. "What brings you here, Lauren?" I asked. She gave me this puzzled look and said, "My key's not working." "What's going on?" I told her plainly I changed the locks. She tried to walk in, but I stepped in the way. "What do you want, Lauren?" I asked. She said she just came to grab a few things she left behind when she moved in with Maya. Once again, it wasn't about me. It wasn't about us. Just about her stuff. Like I wasn't even a part of this mess she'd made. She didn't seem to notice or care how much I was hurting. Was she really that clueless? Did she think I'd be okay with her sleeping around? That I'd be here waiting with open arms? I pointed to the garage and told her there were some boxes with her things that I'd collected from the house. "Why'd you do that, honey?" she asked. I let her inside because despite everything, part of me still saw it as her home too. We walked out to the garage where the boxes were all packed and ready to go. "How long do you plan to stay with Maya?" I asked. She said Maya had been a huge support and that she'd probably be there a few more months. Then she added, "I'll come back. I'll be a better wife. We can start a family, honey." I just stared at her, feeling sick inside. How could she think messing around with other men would somehow make her a better wife? That it would prepare her to be a mom? I didn't see it that way at all. "So, have you found a boyfriend yet?" I asked, not sugarcoating anything. She blushed and didn't answer. But she didn't need to. I already knew. Eventually, she came clean and admitted, "Jess and I have been on a few dates with some guys we met at the club. But that's it." I couldn't help myself. I pushed a little further. "So, how's the sex with your new boyfriends?" I asked. Lauren's face flushed even deeper, and she buried her attention in the boxes, pretending to look for her things. I took that as my cue to leave the garage and headed back into the kitchen. I poured myself a cup of coffee and sat down with the paper. A few minutes later, she walked in carrying a big bag, her eyes scanning the room like she was expecting chaos. But she didn't find it. In fact, the place looked better than ever. I had hired a cleaning service to come by 3 times a week, so everything was spotless. No dirty dishes stacked in the sink. No empty beer bottles lying around. No piles of laundry in the corners. Everything was in perfect order, and I was holding myself together even though deep down, I was still reeling from the fact that my wife had left me to sleep with other men. "Is there anything else you need, Lauren?" I asked, watching her take it all in. Probably surprised the house hadn't fallen apart without her. She looked at me and asked, "So, honey, have you been okay since I've been staying with Jess?" "I'm doing fine," I said flatly. "Work's been keeping me busy, and I've been on the road a lot." She tilted her head, acting concerned. "Have you been going out? Or are you just sitting around here by yourself?" And there it was, the question I'd been expecting. She wanted to know if I was seeing someone. So, I decided to throw in a little twist just to see how she'd react. "I've been keeping busy," I told her. "Actually, I joined a cycling group. We meet twice a week for long rides, anywhere from 40 to 60 miles. It's been great. Met a lot of new people, good folks." I let that hang for a second, then added, "After the rides, we usually grab a burger and a beer somewhere. All that pedaling works up an appetite." I also made it a point to mention that I was cutting back on drinking. Not because I was tempted, but because I knew drowning in alcohol wouldn't help me heal. I'd lost 15 pounds, mostly from the rides, and probably the stress she'd dumped on me. That regular physical activity was keeping me grounded. It might have been the one thing keeping me from mentally unraveling. She responded with this tone, one that told me she wasn't just asking out of kindness. It felt like she wanted to know if I'd started seeing another woman. Maybe the idea of me moving on was starting to sink in. As Lauren drove off, I had a hunch the reality was hitting her. This whole plan of hers wasn't going quite the way she thought it would. Maybe, just maybe, her loyal husband wasn't going to be waiting around forever. Maybe I'd meet someone else. Someone who actually valued being in a committed relationship. Later on, I found out the full story. Lauren had been dating two guys from that same club she and Jess always went to. She'd slept with both of them multiple times. But neither of these men seemed remotely interested in her beyond what happened in bed. They were both married and just looking for some easy, no-strings-attached fun. Lauren was their entertainment, your classic pump and dump. By the time 2 months had passed, I had finally accepted that my marriage was over. I was ready to start the next chapter of my life. Lauren hadn't called or messaged me in weeks. Not once. That said everything. She wasn't thinking about me, and she sure wasn't thinking about our marriage. She had full freedom to do whatever she wanted, and clearly, coming home wasn't one of her priorities. And if she did come back, it wouldn't be that simple. There would be conditions. A lot of them. And even then, I wasn't sure I'd let her back into my life. What really sealed it was when I found out she'd taken a vacation to the Dominican Republic with one of those boyfriends during school break. A sunny beach getaway, soaking up rays, and whatever else they were getting up to. If that was her idea of working on our marriage, well, she was living in a different reality. It was pretty obvious that Maya had been whispering in her ear for a while, painting me as some cold, inattentive husband. And Lauren had bought into it. That was the mindset she had when she packed her things and walked out. Now she was shacked up in a small 2-bedroom apartment with her bitter, divorced friend, and her reputation was starting to take a serious hit. Word was getting around among the other teachers and even our extended family. Her own mother eventually caught wind of her little Caribbean getaway and called me, trying to understand what was going on between us. She probably thought we'd had a big fight or something. I told her the truth. Her daughter left me so she could go sleep with other men. She didn't want to believe it, but I urged her to ask Lauren herself. So she did. She sat Lauren down and asked, "Why did you leave your home? What's going on with you and Ethan? Is he treating you badly?" Lauren's response? "No, Mom, he's not mistreating me. But he doesn't make me feel excited anymore. I don't feel sexy or wanted around him. I need to feel desired again, so I'm looking for that somewhere else. For now. I just want to have a little fun before Ethan and I start a family." Then she added, like it was all part of some master plan, "I'll go back to him in a few months and everything will be fine. He'll appreciate me more then, you'll see." Her mom was stunned. She told Lauren straight up, "Sweetheart, if you keep sleeping with other men, Ethan won't want you back. Cheating is a sure way to destroy your marriage. Don't you see that?" But Lauren stood her ground. "I know Ethan loves me, Mom," she said confidently. "He understands what I need. I'll come back in a few months or maybe a year tops, and then we'll start our family." Her mom practically begged her, "Lauren, please, come back now before it's too late. If you don't, there won't be a marriage left. And there won't be any kids either. Do you understand?" Lauren just nodded, still convinced she was in control of everything. "Ethan loves me," she repeated, like she believed saying it enough times would make it true. Even her mother's desperate plea couldn't snap her out of the fantasy. So, I finally decided it was time to take a page out of Lauren's book and start thinking about what my life could look like without her in it. That whole "what's good for the goose is good for the gander" thing. Yeah, I was starting to get it. It had been about 3 months since she walked out, and I knew I couldn't stay stuck in limbo forever. With a little bit of nerve and a lot of hesitation, I asked one of the women from my cycling group if she'd like to go out sometime. Honestly, I wasn't chasing romance or anything serious. I just wanted some female company, someone to talk to, something to break up the cycle I'd been stuck in. Wake up, go to work, hit the gym, ride my bike, eat, sleep, repeat. That had been my life since Lauren left. A part of me still hoped she'd snap out of this bizarre phase and come home. But deep down, I knew that was probably wishful thinking. And if she did come back, she wouldn't be the same woman I'd married. It looked like she was enjoying her so-called freedom, chasing that spark, craving attention, trying to rediscover herself as a desirable woman. It lined up with what I'd read about why married women cheat. Looking for emotional validation, some thrill they felt they'd lost. So, I figured if I was going to ask someone out, it had to be genuine. I didn't want to come off as some desperate guy hitting on the first woman who smiled at him. I made a point to build some real connections in the cycling group first, to get to know folks and let them get to know me. No weird vibes, no pity dates. Most of the group already knew I was separated. I had a feeling some of them might even have heard about Lauren's little escapades. This town isn't exactly huge. People talk. When I finally asked Rachel if she'd like to grab a tea or maybe a drink sometime, I was surprised when she said yes without hesitation. I suggested a laid-back Saturday night, nothing fancy. I had this idea to go kayaking on a nearby lake before dinner. I'd done it a few years back, so I knew what I was doing. Rachel had never tried kayaking before, but she was open to the idea. So just like that, it became a date. We spent about 3 hours out on the water, paddling roughly 10 miles. It was peaceful, fun, and honestly, the most relaxed I'd felt in a long time. After that, we cleaned up and headed to this cozy little restaurant. I ordered a steak and fries with a craft beer, and Rachel went with pasta and a glass of white wine. The whole vibe was casual, easygoing, no pressure, no expectations. We finished the evening with ice cream from a little boardwalk stand by the lake. I drove her home, told her I'd had a really great time, and was planning to give her a quick kiss on the cheek, but she leaned in and kissed me on the lips. Caught me off guard in the best way possible. I didn't want to come off too eager, so I waited until our usual Tuesday cycling meetup to bring up seeing her again. To my surprise, she mentioned she was a bit worried I hadn't reached out sooner. She thought maybe I hadn't enjoyed myself. I reassured her right away. That couldn't be further from the truth. I'd had a fantastic time, and I really enjoyed being with her. We made plans for the following Saturday, this time for a round of golf. I'd read somewhere that too much texting or calling can turn women off. It can make a guy seem clingy or overly needy. I didn't want to blow it by overdoing it. So that Friday, I sent her a simple message saying I was looking forward to our golf day, and I asked if she wanted me to pick her up or if she'd rather meet at the club. She asked me to pick her up, so we locked in a time for the early afternoon. The golf was fun even if neither of us had much skill. We laughed a lot, didn't take ourselves too seriously. Afterward, we headed back to my place for dinner, just a little barbecue and a bottle of wine. Later in the evening, when I got up to drive her home, she casually took the car keys out of my hand, set them on the counter, and asked if she could see the bedroom. The next morning, I woke up with her arm resting gently across my chest. Rachel was beautiful. Long, dark hair. Striking green eyes. Smooth, flawless skin. She had this small scar on her chin, a remnant of a bike accident that only added to her charm. She was tall, probably 5 feet 11 inches, with a lean, athletic build. I'd guess she weighed around 140 pounds and kept herself in great shape. She worked as a pediatric nurse at the local hospital, which said a lot about the kind of person she was. Warm, compassionate, real. And from the moment I met her, I felt pulled in by her energy. We had breakfast out on the patio, and eventually the conversation turned to where things were heading, with me, with Lauren, and whether divorce was in the cards. It was a tough topic, but I understood why she needed clarity. No one wants to invest in something that might fall apart a few weeks later. She deserved to know what I was thinking. I told her the truth. I explained Lauren's reasoning for leaving, how she claimed she just needed to feel wanted again before starting a family. Rachel's face said it all. She didn't buy it either. And honestly, hearing her reaction helped push me in the direction I already knew I needed to go. It gave me that little shove I'd been waiting for. That Monday morning, I called my attorney and asked her to bring in a private investigator. It was time to move forward for real. At that point, I figured it was time to find out exactly how many men Lauren had been involved with before I hit her with the divorce papers. Turns out she'd been seeing several guys, most of them married, and they'd all hang out at Maya's apartment after hitting bars and clubs around town, continuing the party late into the night. 2 weeks later, the divorce petition landed in her hands. That marked the start of a storm I knew was coming. That evening, she showed up at the house, clearly upset, envelope in hand. When I opened the door, there she was, my estranged wife, looking rattled and shaken. I kept my tone even. "Lauren, what brings you here tonight?" She held up the envelope. "Honey, some guy dropped this off today. Why did you file for divorce?" "I told you I'd be home soon. Even this week. We could finally start trying for that baby we talked about." I stepped aside and invited her in, motioning toward the kitchen. You better have a seat, I said. Because, Lauren, it's a bit late for all that. I reminded her, when you left, I told you not to go. I didn't want this. But you walked out anyway. She tried to justify it. Honey, I told you I needed time to figure myself out, to feel like myself again. I cut her off, the sarcasm slipping into my voice. So, how's that going? Do you feel whole now? Got all the validation you needed? Explored your sexuality? Met enough exciting people? Racked up your share of new experiences? My voice grew sharper. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been doing just fine. You barely contacted me since the day you left. Not a single message on my birthday. Probably too busy lounging in the Dominican with one of your boyfriends. Your mom called me asking why you didn't even check in with her on Mother's Day. I paused. So what's this really been about? Just chasing pleasure. She started to cry. Honey, I love you. I realize now I may have taken things too far. I want to come home. I looked her dead in the eye. No, you're not. Her voice cracked. What are you talking about? I'm still your wife. This is still my house. I'm just going to Jess's to grab my stuff. I'll be back in a few hours. I shook my head. No, you won't. Did you actually read everything in that envelope? Flip to the back. There's a judge's order that says you're not allowed within 500 feet of this house until the divorce is finalized. I added, technically, you're already violating that. I'm not going to push it tonight, but you need to leave. We'll sort everything out through the legal channels. It started to hit her then what those vows we took had actually meant. Love, honor, cherish, be faithful. And just how far she'd wandered from all of that. I told her, if you want this house, fine. It's nearly paid off. My half is worth about $150,000. You can buy me out. But if not, we'll sell it and split the profit. Either way, you're not moving back in while I'm still living here. I walked her to the door and shut it behind her, locking it without hesitation. About a month later, we managed to settle things quietly, no courtroom drama. She got half the assets, as the law allows. We sold the house and I moved forward. Lauren, meanwhile, went back to her new normal. But word got around. A friend told me her charter school had given her a warning. Apparently, some of the parents had caught wind of her personal life and weren't thrilled about her teaching their kids. The moms, in particular, had a lot to say behind closed doors. And some of the dads? Rumor had it a few of them had been involved with her. Then came the kicker. Lauren was diagnosed with an STD. Nothing deadly, but it required a year of abstinence. That might have been manageable, except she was pregnant. Seems one of her partners knocked her up. She hadn't been taking her birth control regularly, had been drinking heavily, and apparently condoms weren't part of the plan. No one could say for sure who the father was, but he supposedly looked a lot like one of the married teachers at her school. That was it. My divorce was finalized. I was free of Lauren and everything that came with her.